All right. Good to be here again. Today I got with me Mike Bernal. If the name sounds familiar, it's because he's my older brother. He's been a mentor for me. He's been like throughout the years. I remember back when even Napoleon Hill, the books that you've recommended and everything that you've done has done me so much. I think Napoleon Hill was one, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins. I remember the coaching sessions I started having with Tony Robbins and his group was because of your recommendations and his book and his conferences. And you've been such a great mentor to me that I wanted to have you on today to pick your brains a little bit with everything that's going on, everything that's that we're facing. You know, whether you call it crisis, call it virus, call it whatever. You're a guy that has been through quite a bit of crises during the years. You know, you're in the construction field, so construction is always one of those places where the economy always gets hit so bad, and you always have come on top with you know. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what you're up to right now, so that we can get our listeners to speed, Mike.
Well, like you said, I'm Mike Bernal, originally Miguel Bernal. When I got into into business, there was a person that I was that hired me to represent this product that they sold. It's a steel product, and he recommended that instead of Miguel Bernal, I use Mike, which is the same as Miguel, and that I can go and relate more to the market that I had, which was pretty mixed. We had a little bit of everything, but the bigger market was the construction, the general contractors, American general contractors. And I grew up down in Miami, where, you know, that's all Cubans and a whole bunch of mix of all Latin America. So for the last probably almost 30 years in the business world, they call me Mike. But right around that time, I started coming across these books, these self-help books that I had no idea that existed. That's how archaic I was in you know, the world outside of construction, working, being a carpenter, getting up early in the morning and having to go to work and come back home and do the same thing. But I was ignorant to everything outside of that world. I wanted more in my life. I became project manager, superintendent, and I was running pretty large projects, but outside of that, I had no clue. So a friend of mine, later became a friend, at that time he wasn't, he recommended Zig Ziglar, and I had no idea who Zig Ziglar was. And I started reading his books, and he always mentions other people in his books and other books that he's read. And so I started researching that, and I became obsessed with it because I had never seen anything like that you can actually change your behavior, that you can change the way that you act, and in a way that's positive and can make you successful. The first book I ever read like that was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Okay. And it was a fantastic book. Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie, yeah.
Yeah, and it was incredible. The way that we were used to managing people in construction was all about threat and fear, and if you don't do what I say, then you're gonna get fired or worse in some cases. So people were noticing that I had some potential to lead a group, but I had no idea how to do it. So they recommended that book, and it helped me a lot. So moving forward a few years, I started finding all these books, and I will share them with you and with my other brother and friends, because I thought that you guys would be as fascinated by them as I was. And since I had never been, everything that I ever read was technical things about construction, and that's why I knew a lot about construction, but not that I didn't know a whole lot about human behavior, because the older I get, the more I see how complex we are. But at least it taught me how to act in front of professional people in a way that I would be able to fit in somehow.
Okay.
So that's why I would share all those things with everybody.
Now, you mentioned something that I speak a lot in my courses and my teachings, is that there's that dual part. You said you did a lot of learning in the mechanical sense, the how to do things, but that's only a part of it. One of the things I have noticed is that you can be great at doing something because you got the mechanics of it, but the results aren't there. And it's so frustrating when you know how to do something and yet the results are not there. And it's because of this other part that you're talking about, personal growth and mindset, comes in. How did you experience that? Because I know you were a great contractor, and you knew how to lead people, yet something was missing. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, actually, there were two parts that I had that I thought that they were important at that time. One was the technical skills, that since I was very young, I learned. And the second was the ambition that I had, and the positive outlook of life that I had. I was always certain, never a doubt in my mind, that I wasn't going to stay working in construction as a carpenter. And I'm not demeaning any carpenters. That was a great profession for many years, and they make some pretty good money, but it's not as pleasant as being inside an office, because down here the sun is pretty harsh. So I knew that I was going to get out of that world. I had no idea how, what I needed to do, but I was almost certain, 100%, that it was going to happen. And that kind of an ignorance, in a good way, I think has helped me a lot, because of that ignorance, I was never afraid to try to do something. I always thought that it was going to work, and if it didn't work, I was going to fix it on the way. But I was going to go for it. I never thought about it too much. I never wanted to become an expert at anything that I tried, because maybe I was very impatient also. So I wanted to start seeing things immediately. And so that attitude of moving forward and forward, regardless of what would happen. Well, you know how many inconveniences we've had through the years. And but I've never for 1 minute thought of giving up, or I just thought that was part of the whole process.
And it's incredible because last week I was interviewing one of my clients, and he mentioned exactly the same thing. Even before he knew all these things, resilience was one of the things that drove him. It was that desire that he was not going to quit no matter what. And if it failed, he tried again, and he just tried again until he was up and running and changed his whole company. And I'm hearing the same thing from you, where the failures or the lack of results didn't stop you. That resilience kept you going. And nowadays, especially, if we bring it into the now times, the things that we're going through now of uncertainty and this crisis and the virus and all that, I think that is so important to have right now, to have that resilience to not stop. I find so many companies right now that are waiting. They're waiting to see what's going to happen instead of acting and taking action and being in the movement forward instead of just halting.
It's your mindset, like you said at the beginning, is pretty much everything. not only in business, but in your life, the way that you perceive things, what happens between the two ears, is the most important thing. Whether you're going through a coronavirus or you're going through a business transaction, your family, it's all how you perceive those things. And I was thinking about something that applies to many things, and since I got into the art world afterwards, it applies there. It applies in shooting, which we have done a lot, target shooting and things like that. And just like in being an entrepreneur and starting businesses and moving forward and having that, you have to start somewhere. You have to start and not pretend that it's going to go perfect all the time. You have to pretend that it's going to work, because that's your mindset, or at least my mindset, that it was going to work, but to expect a whole bunch of changes along the way. And the only way that you can know whether you have to steer left is if you're moving too far right, or vice versa. But if you don't know that, how would you be able to maneuver yourself?
Yeah, if you're standing still, you can't maneuver, right?
If you're standing still, you can't maneuver at all. So you have to do something. In target shooting, when you start zeroing a rifle, what is the first thing you do? So you take a shot, and you don't care where that shot lands. You point obviously to the bullseye, but you don't care if you hit the bullseye or not on that first or second shot, because you're zeroing in your rifle, right? So when you hit that first shot, you can say, I need to move to the right and down, or to the left and up, or vice versa. And then you take another shot, and you're going to see that that shot is going to be closer. You know where you want to go, you know where you want to hit, but you don't know if you're going to get there from the first shot.
Right.
Actually, most of the times you're not. So you need to take that shot. When you start a painting, you don't know what you need to do. You don't know if you have to put it darker, lighter, cooler colors, warmer. You have to put something on the canvas and then correct it. Because you don't know, you can finish the whole thing in one shot and expect to be perfect. So all of these things that we're doing, it takes, it's a process. You can't expect to go like that and make it happen, but you have to take action. Take that first shot, put that first stroke of paint, or go for it. Whatever you have in mind. Obviously, you're not going to be irresponsible and mortgage your house and sell all your cars and everything, because you have to be optimistic and you know that it's going to work. It's not like that. I mean, I know it's most people watching this, and you know that it's not like that, but you have to take some action and expect to make a mistake and then correct it.
Right.
Do it again, correct it, and be constantly correcting the whole way through. In a painting, that's what we have to do. Correct, and adjust here and correct here. And then when you reach the end, most of the times you're going to be pretty satisfied, because you've been doing all these corrections along the way. You didn't have to do a major correction at the end, because you didn't do all of those little steps going on.
So what I'm hearing you say is that, like you said, with the rifle, there is that bullseye, that where is it that I want to be at? How important is that to getting there?
Well, I don't think the actual little circle in the bullseye is as important as the bigger circle around it. Because you don't know that little circle in the middle is, I would say, years of doing what you're doing, because you keep honing in, and at the end it starts getting, the adjustments get smaller and smaller and smaller, because now you're getting into mastery of whatever you're doing.
Okay.
Before you know that that's the goal that you have is somewhere out there. You have a general idea. I mean, you can expect to have your goal to be the entire 3 foot by 3 foot target, because then it's too broad. and you can't concentrate. Uh, but that black, the bigger circle around that bullseye, is the general
Where
area.
you where you want to start heading. It's funny because a lot of people that I ask, what is it that you want? What does your future look like? Where would you want to be a year from now? Inevitably, they start talking about what they don't want. It's so clear to them exactly what they don't want. But the clarity of where they want to go to is usually missing. There is not a clue of, I know that I don't want to be poor anymore. I know I don't want to struggle with money. I know I don't want to have a bad relationship. I know I don't want to have a bad relationship with my kids or my wife, or I know I don't want to be fat anymore. But we have a tendency, I don't know where that comes from, where we look at what we don't want and then are so vague and so unclear of where we want to go.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I remember a friend of mine, he said he had the perfect recipe for a sauce that he had. Everybody that tried that sauce went crazy. For years and years, he spoke to me about the sauce. I never tried the sauce, by the way. I don't think. Because if I would have and it was that good, I would have remembered. So, but the point is that for years and years, I think I started like 5 businesses, and he never started the business of the sauce, which is it's a very simple thing if you think about it, because you already have the secret formula right there. The ingredients,
the recipe, yeah.
The recipe, you have it. The only thing you need is just to increase production, and do some marketing for that sauce. I don't think he wanted to get that huge or to compete with Heinz or anything, but he would have done well. He was petrified to give it a shot, even out of his own house. I said, start in the garage of your house or your kitchen. He was frozen. He couldn't take action to do something like that. And that happens with the majority of the people. They start finding faults with their own invention or their own thing. They start finding reasons, and I think that's more an escape than anything else. But they find a lot of reasons as to why they can't do that. And I remember that I couldn't shut up about all the reasons why I had to do that.
Yeah.
Even though some people, didn't agree with me, but
there's a tendency of, when we're afraid of what we're going to put out there, and I think you probably see in the art world, and we'll talk a little bit about how you got into that, how you became a professional artist. But one of the things I've noticed is that there is a fear of letting the world know what you're doing, and therefore you try to keep perfecting it or making changes, or like you said, making excuses. And it has nothing to do with the product or the service or the art or whatever it is that you're doing. What's hindering really behind all that is the fear. What are people going to say? Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? We hear a lot about people even are afraid more of success than they are of failure. And what would happen if now, for instance, the guy with a sauce needs to make more sauce and he feels like he's not able to? And when I speak to my clients and businesses that come to me for help, that's one of the biggest challenges I have, is in breaking that way of thinking of, I need to perfect before I get it out there. It needs to be perfect. It's not acceptable yet. I need to do more. I need to get better. I need to study more. And I found that in myself is one of the things I caught me doing, is that every time I was going to release a new product or was going to do a new launch of either one of my coaching programs, or I would always have to go back and study some more, And I always had that feeling that before releasing, I got to get back and I got to study. It got to a point where, the reality is I didn't really need to study anything else. What I needed to do was change my mindset of saying what I'm giving, it's me, it's what I have, and it's what I'm allowing for my clients to receive from me. It's not all this studying or this perfectionist, you know.
Do you remember the story when we were selling those fire proofing liquids? Um,
The one that we put fire on the, yeah,
on the mattress.
on the mattress. That's right. Yes.
So that's a perfect example of being naive and believing in what you're doing. We went to that place. I told the guy that I was going to do an exhibition, a demonstration of how that liquid was so great, and it was a mattress factory. So he brought out some pieces of mattress that he had. I sprayed that liquid, but I used it wrong. I know now why it didn't work, but back then I was too. I didn't know a lot about those things. So I sprayed it, waited like, I don't know, 5 minutes or something like that, and torched the piece of mattress, and the whole thing caught fire.
And it was a fire prevention liquid, right? It was to avoid fire retardant, right?
It wasn't supposed to catch fire. It was supposed to. So if it would have worked, it would have been great, because the guy was ready to place an order. I didn't know that they were looking for this thing as much as they did. So when that happened, the gentleman got up and he said, "Back to the drawing board," and walked inside his plant. And I kept working at it. I tested it on my wife's or our sofa. And she used to say, "I don't know why the sofa is having these white stains in the back." I would do it in the back so that she wouldn't see it. But I kept going, and then got into that fire stopping business. But going back to what you were saying, I've been reading a little bit about this now, and I think the biggest fear or the biggest reason that this happens is mostly the ego that we have. The ego doesn't like anyone to say that things are looking bad, or that they don't work, or that's a stupid idea, or that painting is ugly, or
any sort of criticism, right?
Yes, nobody likes that, and or a lot of people can overcome it. I don't think anyone likes it, but some people move forward regardless, because that rejection right there is greater. That fear, that rejection is greater than the vision that they have for that product. And that can never happen like that. It has to be the opposite always. You have to be willing. Part of creating something big or doing something, opening a big company or something like that, as a package, I think you have to put, people are going to hurt me along the way. They're going to criticize me. They're going to make this whole idea stupid. That's part of the whole thing. Don't think that some people go through it and some people don't, and some people have the tenacity to withstand it and they're more powerful. Everybody goes through that. Some people just, I think I hate more than everybody else.
I think that's where resilience that you were talking about at the beginning comes in, when you really don't you're so resilient that you just get up again, and you get up again, and no matter what they say, you stand up to it and you move forward. Yeah, in pain and in that sense of, because of the ego, that you feel like you've been hurt. The reality is that one of the things I've noticed is it's my own way of thinking that gets me hurt. It's if I acknowledge somebody's criticism as pain, is because it's painful for me, because it has come from me before, because I am judging myself. If there's no judgment from myself, I always use examples like, if I were to call you, for instance, if I call you, no, because you're a Cuban, obviously there's no offense there, because you are Cuban. That's, there's no, and the connotation and everything that you have attached to being Cuban is positive. So there is no offense at all there. Now, I can call you whatever, anything else that you have attached a negative meaning to, and you don't like it in yourself, that when I bring it up, it's so offensive. And we take that, and what we're doing is actually just mirroring ourselves onto that. We're projecting, if you will, that the sensations that we already have, and somebody has touched on it. It's like having a wound and somebody has just put, a little bit of salt in it, or put our finger on it, and then the pain just comes out and we react. But what we're really reacting is to our own pain, to our own deception of ourselves, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I was reading Carl Jung, the psychologist, where he talks a lot about shadows that we have, and I don't know if you've been able to read some of his writings. And Jordan Peterson talks a lot about him, and they were saying, actually, I was listening to a book this morning, an audio book this morning, and they were talking about that most of the times is your own reflection. Um, those that fear of whatever you're talking about is because there's some traces of that.
Right.
And another thing that I learned is that you can have positive shadows also, which I didn't know. And he put an example for a creative person. If your parents, when you were a little kid, you always had those instincts to be creative and things like that. If they were always oppressing that, saying, you're not going to make a good living out of that, you have to go to college, you can't do art because artists are not successful, or whatever, you create a shadow of that thing, which is a positive thing, the creativity in you, and you oppress it because that's what you've been hearing all your life.
Right.
That it's not supposed to be there. So you oppress it, just like bad temper or whatever other negative shadow you may have. So that was pretty interesting. But what you just said, I remember that they mentioned it very clearly in the book.
Okay. I think for me, what has helped me a lot, and I don't know about you, one of the things that has helped me so much is in actually acknowledging these faults, or this lack of whatever you want to call it in myself, so that I can accept it. Not so that I could stay that way. And I always make sure that I mention that it's not love yourself, because right now we've gone into this idea of loving yourself, therefore stay, in mediocrity and stay wherever you're at, but just continue to love yourself. I'm talking about accepting and loving yourself, and that means that you're going to get out of it and move forward. But once you accept it, once you know, and I'll give you an example. For me, I'm a slow thinker, introvert, and everything I process a lot before I speak, and I tend to do things slower. I have a wife that's an extrovert and moves at 100 miles an hour. And when I'm in comparison, I'm moving like, 5 miles an hour, and that's at full speed. And it always offended me so much that she would mention that I was so slow. It would offend me. It bothered me so much, and it got us into discussions and arguments because of it. And until I wrote it down, it came down into my list of things that I needed to accept by myself. And when I finally did and I accepted, I'm slower than average. I do think more. I do take longer to do things. I'm a perfectionist, and so it's those are things that I know that I have that are going to cause criticism. Once I accept it, now she can tell me, "You're so slow," and I go, "Yeah," and it's like it doesn't affect me anymore because I'm not judging myself anymore. I'm no longer in that place of judgment. I am more in the mode of acceptance, and yeah, not everybody's going to like what I'm doing, and turning it over to what we're going through right now. It's a little bit of what I want take the talk to is, what are we doing today? What's going on? What are we afraid of? What are the challenges that we are going through as human beings? I love the book from Green, the Laws of Human Nature, because we're all the same if we're looking at ourselves as humans. That we all have these desires and these weaknesses and this way of being that we each react to when we come in front of a crisis. Now, you've been in quite a few crises throughout the years. You know, it's one of the advantages that we have is that, you know, as we go through so many crises, yeah, there may be a little bit bigger. This might be worldwide, but you kind of know how to navigate them. And I guess with all this humanness that we have, how have you served the wave of crisis throughout the years?
I'm laughing because the last time that we spoke, you know, you mentioned that you wanted to do something like that, and I told you that the older that I got, the more I know of how little I know, and how surprising it is that I was able to do so many things with so little knowledge, without you know, like you said, that you analyze things that perfectly. And most of the times you may think that I was kidding when I told you that like last week, but most of my professional life, I've winged it a lot.
Okay.
And, you know, it has worked a lot of the times, but a lot of times I made a lot of major mistakes, big mistakes, because honestly, I didn't know one way or the other. And you can't be asking people questions like that. So, you know, what do you do in a specific situation? Because most people, first of all, they don't want to volunteer any advice in case it goes wrong or the other way that you don't blame him for it. But yeah, I didn't have that many people that I could go to for that type of situation. So most of the times I would not panic. I would not freak out. I would not make decisions, you know, very quick decisions like that. If I foresee something, I would like to have a drink now and then. I would stop drinking during that time of crisis. Most people drink more during that time, but I stopped because the times that I've gone through, I needed whatever little brain I had at that moment. I needed working 100%, and there were some serious situations. And what I did mostly was just be calm and have faith that things were going to get solved. Not sitting at home drinking again or having, you know, parties or you know, thinking what things I needed to do, what to avoid to get things to get worse. But I think the biggest thing anyone can do in a crisis is try to keep the calm, and that, you know, that's something nobody wants to hear in a crisis. But the bottom line is that is the truth. If you freak out, you lose. If you freak out, you lose. There's the why is this happening? Why do I have to be able to? Why do I get this chance to have a slow, almost 2 months vacation? Because now I hear it's towards the end of April that we're going to be on this lockdown. So I've never. I mean, I started having a week vacation not that long ago, much less a 2 months vacation. I enjoy it because I get to paint more and things like that. But there's other purposes that I think are involved here. And I'm not going to go into any spiritual thing or anything like that. But on the receiving end that we are, I think that we should take this time to slow down a little bit and think about our lives, think about our family, our immediate family, ourselves. Are we moving too fast? Are we going in the right direction? Are we going for that target that we spoke about earlier? Am I deviating? Who do I know? What people are surrounding me that are poisonous to my well-being? What influences do I have? What do I have to stop doing to be able to reach my goals in life? Read a lot of positive things. All these guys that we mentioned, Zig Ziglar. Fill yourself with all that. The Bible, read Psalms. Fill yourself with positive things. This is not a time to be sitting in front of the TV for 20 hours straight watching the amount of people contaminated with the virus. Forget about that. Shut the TV off and build yourself. Fill yourself with positive things, good things, and it's going to help. We're going to get out of this. I don't know when, if it's a month, 2 months, or 3 weeks. I don't know when, but we're going to get out of it. And when we do, a lot of people are going to say, man, I wasted 2.5 months freaking out in there. Nothing happened. Finally, a lot of people died. I'm sorry about that. I mean, it's a really bad thing. And I feel so horrible for all those people. But I wasted 2.5 months. I didn't do anything. I didn't build myself. Now I'm back to the same rat race that I was before. And I'm the same as I was before. Don't leave this crisis being the same. Try to change something. Try to learn something. Try to edify yourself with something positive. It doesn't have to be anything with a crisis, just for the rest of your life.
Because I'm so with you on this, because we're not going to get back to the same world we left, to lock ourselves up. We're going to find a completely new world, completely new way of doing business. There are so many changes happening on a daily basis that if we don't get ready, and I think this is where we were talking about at the beginning, is if we're not have the right mindset, if we don't have that mindset to be able to adapt to the new changes. I'm talking to my clients, and we're coming up with strategies almost on a daily basis on how to keep their companies going. Some of them have got 40, 50 employees, and these employees are home, and they have to deal with that. And we come up with strategies, and the biggest advantage that I see them having right now is the ability to change and adapt, because it's coming so quickly. The other one is to move quickly, is not to overthink things, because what's going to work today is not going to work tomorrow. So if you get a good idea, if you get a good opportunity right now, take advantage of it, because it may not be here tomorrow. That might have gone. And then pass it on. That's the third one, is communication. For me, it's like I'm talking to my clients, is get a hold of all your customers, get a hold of all your employees, be in touch with them. There is so much uncertainty that the only certainty that they may have might be you, might be having a phone call from you, hearing from you. I just heard from one of my clients. He told me that one of his customers they were calling all their customers just to see how they were doing. They can't even sell them anything right now because they're not manufacturing. And the customer says, you're the only provider, the only vendor that has called to find out how I'm doing. And he goes, the guy was so grateful to have received that call. And we're running around trying to see what we do. And if we don't take advantage of what's going on, and I don't mean take advantage of people during the crisis, I'm talking about taking advantage of the opportunities that are going to come up. People are buying. There's this idea that, no, wait until the end of the crisis because nobody's buying anything. He goes, let me tell you, I know that's not true, because I'm buying stuff. I needed to upgrade a whole bunch of things because of how many conferences I'm doing now. I'm connecting with all my customers through online chats and online videos that I've had to upgrade. I've had to buy technology. I've had to buy new courses on how to work things that I didn't know how to work. My wife is buying courses on how to do edit her own films, and I don't know how much money we spend just on developing our skills in this time, so that when we get back once again, we're able to deal with it, right? So
You're getting prepared for when it's over, that you don't have to start preparing for the new things that are coming along.
Right. One of the things that, and in talking to you, this has been, once again, with your mentoring and hearing from you throughout the years, one of the things that has helped our business, and what has helped my customers that I have passed on, is this idea of, we just have one client, and that client is human nature. And we need to connect right now with what is humanity going through. What are my clients going through? They're all feeling the same thing. They're feeling insecure. They're feeling this sense of not knowing where to go, what to do. So there's all these needs that we go through in these moments of crisis. So we know exactly what they're going through. So it makes it like, for us to provide that that sense of assuring them that things are okay. You know what you just said, Mike. You're going to get out of it. This is going to end, and we're going to go, and we're going to be back, and we're going to do everything. And so you need to start thinking of not when or what's going to happen or how it's going to look like. You can start thinking, is who am I? Who am I right now? So that when I leave this crisis, 2-3 months, whatever, however long it takes, I am stronger. I am healthier in my mindset. I have thoughts that are helping me move forward instead of hindering me and slowing me down. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if people realize at the speed that we're moving on a daily basis, people in general, even if you don't have a business, and then all of a sudden to be in this situation, people must feel very, very antsy and at home and wanting to do things, and I can understand that, because I feel like that too. That the uncertainty, it's always there, as to, in my own mind, thinking ahead. But again, it is what it is, and we have to make the best out of it.
And be in the moment, right?
Right, exactly. Be prepared, because it's going to be over. And if you're not prepared, somebody else in your business, in your industry, will be prepared.
That's right.
Whatever that means. And I don't even know how we are going to prepare in our business.
Right.
But
it's just being able to adapt a day at a time, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Mike, I want to shift the conversation again a little bit. Is that you've always painted. You've always been, you've always been great with paper and pencil, coming up with designs, and then all of a sudden, has it been about 5 years, 6 years, that you started painting full blown, and you've become a professional artist? Talk to us a little bit about that, about purpose and that whole thing. I've heard you say so many times about how you feel about the art and about what you do.
Yes, about when the recession hit in 2007, 2008, we of all the other times in my life, we picked that time to go to Europe. I didn't want to go anywhere. We were going through, all the things that we went through during the recession and all those things, but we ended up going and stayed at my niece's house. And when we landed in Paris, I went to the Louvre. Actually, it was the d'Orsay Museum, and I saw a painting there that gave me chills. It was a painting by Sorolla. And I was almost in tears when I saw that. I had never felt anything like that, from an object like. And it woke something up that I had inside of me all my life. I know what that is now after reading a lot. These last 5 years, I've read a lot about art, and and I became very interested in that spiritual part or spiritual side of the art world, and not so much technique and things like that. But anyway, I when I got back from France, I went and signed up to an atelier, a art school. You know, a small ateliers like the ones they had back in the Renaissance. They had, I mean, not in the Renaissance, much later, but they were back then. They were mentoring the kids would go to
Okay.
a painter and learn like that. In France is when they came up in the, I think it was the 17th century, something like that, that they came up with these ateliers. So I went and registered in one and started taking art lessons there. And then 5 weeks later, went to this other school where it had just started. They came from Florence, the teachers, they learned there. And it was a fascinating thing. I went there for 4 years, and 3.5, 4 years. I would go every Friday, once a week, and then Saturdays I would go back and work on the lessons that I had, and do a lot of work at home. And that's how I started. And this is a world. Imagine construction, being in the construction business since I was 12 years old in that industry, to changing after so many years and getting into this fascinating world of art. And it has been an incredible experience, which I'm going to pursue until God tells me to.
Otherwise. And I think it's for me. I admire you so much because it's that adaptability once again. How many people do we find that they're still giving excuses of why not? I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have enough money. I don't know enough. I need to learn more. And those are the things that are preventing us from living our purpose, living out our full potential of who we are, of who we can be. And we're denying the world that gift that we were here, that we were placed here to give. So
Most likely, the majority of people are not fulfilling.
exactly. And for me, it's like that I used to think that how scary it is to go and stand in front of an audience or do in front of a camera and all that, and until it dawned on me, it goes, woe of me if I don't get in front of a camera. Woe of me if I'm not in front of
Right.
my clients telling them what to do. Woe of me if I'm not giving of myself, of what I've been giving, if I'm not passing on and making somebody else's life easier or more enjoyable or happier or touching lives in some form, right?
There's a simple thing that I tell myself that it's almost it's funny because it's a very, very simple thing. I went back. You remember, I went back to college when I was 50 years old, um, and many people question why I was doing that. I was financially very well off. I didn't have any need to learn something to better myself or to get a promotion or anything like that. So why was I going to do that? And my father was one of the people that asked me, why are you going to start doing that at this age? And I said, because um, in 3 years or 4 years, I'm going to be 54. And I'm going to be 54 either having gone to college or having not going to college. And when I started the art school, I mean, I knew I wasn't going to quit because I don't normally quit anything that I start like that. And but I said to myself the same thing. I felt like quitting many times because of this little voice inside of me kept telling me constantly, especially at the beginning, what the heck are you doing at this age studying art? Why are you going to get into this world? Then I had an answer for that. I said, because when I get to be 80 years old, if I don't have an art in me, if I don't know how to paint or I don't know how to draw, what the heck am I going to do? I'm going to go nuts. I'm going to go crazy. What better thing to do than prepare myself now, enjoy it now, and enjoy it until I'm 80 years old, and know that I will be doing something, that I'm not going to be just sitting at home watching TV. So you are either, God willing, you're going to last, 95, whatever, 100, I don't care. But throughout that, every time you have something to do, you say, well, I'm too old for that. Well, you're going to be too old in 3 or 4 years with that or without that. What are
Right.
you? And it's very simple. And people are going to say, man, you tell that to a little kid. You don't, but it works for me because it gives me a perspective of things, of what am I going to do, you know?
And even now, going through this crisis, if you put it together with what you had said before, it goes, the crisis is going to be over, and it's going to be over with you overweight, not doing anything for yourself, not learning anything, not growing your business, not doing what you need to do, or you're going to get there with a stronger company, with a structure in place, with better communication with your employees, with all these richness, and it's going to be there after we cross it. So he goes, we're going to cross it anyway. So how do you want to get to the other side? How do you want to be once you cross that? When they tell us it's over and we're able to go back out and do what we need to do, he says, what I want to do, what would I have wanted to do? Today is the day to ask the question, not once you're done, because then it's like you were saying, Mike, before. It goes, how frustrating it is to come to the end of this and said, I misused this gift that we got of a couple of months of rethinking, re-engineering ourselves, analyzing and spending some time with us. I think we neglect ourselves so much, where we are always paying attention to everything, even to our own desires and our own vices, but we don't pay attention to our inner self of being quiet and being present before God and just acknowledging who you are before Him. We do so little of that, and this is a great opportunity to do that.
It is an incredible opportunity, and you guys, I mean, you guys have so much responsibility in these times, and not because you have all the answers either, because I'm sure you go through the same things that you teach your clients. You go through them because you're human the same way as they are, and you may be going through something now that they went through, or me, or anybody else, but you have a gift that you can convey that message of peace, of hey, slow down, start thinking a little bit. You can do that very, very well, and you have a huge responsibility that I don't want to be in your shoes right now.
Yeah.
Because I know how people are out there, especially the older people that they get scared because they tell them that the older you are, the more chances you have of getting complicated or even dying from it.
Right.
So it's incredible, the resources out there, but they need people like you to bring it to them. They don't have to be searching for anything,
Yeah, and especially now that we have so much time, even now, what we're doing, Lore and myself, my wife works with me, and we do a lot of the work together. And it's just, we're providing a lot of content. We're providing a safety net for people that, especially if your business, if you want a session to strategize what to do throughout this crisis and come out ahead and come out strong, get a hold of me. We're providing these sessions for a period of time now, so that we can strengthen each other, because I'm doing the same thing with my coaches. I'm meeting with them and getting together. and I'm doing interviews with people that I admire, people that I care for, because I want to get this word out that we are getting through this. We're going to be soon. We're going to be at the other side of this, and I don't know what soon is, but I know we're going to be at the other side. And I want for you to be in a place of empowerment, a place of abundance, a place of peace, instead of, you know, scarcity and fear and anxiety. So that, you know, once we cross this stage where we're in, we hit the road running, and we're not starting at zero, and we're not depending on whether the government gives me something so I can move forward, or if I can do X, Y, or Z. You know, I'm creating my future right now. I don't put it in the hands of anybody. And I think that's one of the things that you were sharing earlier, Mike, is that you have that vision, you have that target, you know, general area where you're going, and you were so resilient to moving towards it. You know, you didn't wait for something to happen. You went through criticism. You went through everything that we go through when we set our sails towards where we're going to go. Yeah, we're going to have interruptions. That's going to happen. But more than interruption, I think, and I'm glad you said it, I don't look at it as interruption. I look at it as a gift that we've gone to do something with our lives in this period of time. And it's our choice, totally our choice, to see how we're going to do that, how we're going to spend that time in, so that we are better persons, better human beings at the end of this.
You know that something came to mind to finish this. I think you're getting ready to wrap it up. That most people say that time is the most important and most precious thing that we possess. But yet, whenever we have that in abundance, like now, at least for us, I mean, we're not, the clients are just out there. We're not, you know, you can sense that there's you know, people are just laying low. If it's so precious and so expensive and so fantastic, and why don't we take more time, more advantage of it? We got a lot of time now. I mean, at least for me, a couple of weeks without, you know, doing too much, it's a long time. So take advantage of that precious thing that we have, which is time.
That's a good way to close it, Mike. Thank you so much for being with me and giving me this time. It's always such a...
Thank you, my brother. And to wrap it up, and let me tell you that I have learned more from you than I would ever be able to teach you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's been mutual. I think we've at least that's how I feel about you as well. So thank you so much. And thank you for giving me the time.
Got it.
All right. Be in touch, guys. Let us know. Send me a comment of what you think of the video. And once again, if you're interested in having that session, whether crossing the crisis, you know, get a hold of me. Don't waste this opportunity. I don't know how many more people we can handle, but just get a hold of me, and I'll gladly send you a link so you can fill out an application, and we'll take it from there. So thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you in our next video.